Women Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Linda Crater celebrate the thoughts and opinions of magnetic, spirited, and influential women. Each week, bold, brilliant women spark vigorous conversations on the complexities of life, love, and happiness. Now here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Linda Crater. Hello, ladies. This is Linda Crater, and Sandra Beck is ill today, so we wish her all wishes and feeling well very, very soon. I am so excited to talk about this topic today with this group of women we have here. Today's topic is loyalty, and it's such a rich topic to discuss in so many ways, and we are joined today by Sharon Jameson from Atlanta, Georgia, Frankie Picasso from Ontario, Canada, Kathy Krafke from Texas, and Joyce Buford, also from Texas. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Hey.
You know, when I looked at this topic, I thought about it can mean so many things, buddy, and it means different things, different people. To me, loyalty is someone I can count on who's got my back, and you are either loyal all the way or you're not, and I don't category. And I'm just curious how you all feel about loyalty. Is it something that you seek in other people? Are you automatically attracted to those kinds of people who are loyal? Or is it one of those things that you have to trust but verify? And let's start with Frankie.
Hey, how are you, everybody?
Good morning.
Good morning. You know, loyalty is something that I expect, I always hope is there in relationships with other people, with businesses, with whomever. And I expect to be loyal in return. And that is something that I give freely and want to give and believe that should be given. And I'm always disappointed when it doesn't turn out the way I hope it does. And that loyalty, you know, I once wrote that loyalty is a given and it should be in any relationship, really. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't always pan out that way. And I'm always severely disappointed when it doesn't.
Oh, amen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's really so true, Frankie. And one thing I know about loyalty is in order to be loyal, sometimes we have to make sacrifices and think about the other person's best interest. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one reason sometimes we're disappointed because other people don't necessarily understand what our needs are.
Do we always know generous. What our needs are?
You're being generous,
you are being generous.
But that's Kathy. Big heart. Big heart.
Thank you for that.
I think that loyalty is something that I expect and desire, but I don't expect it as much as I used to. I'm seeing that people are very broken, and they're not really aware of how broken they are. And so you can't expect wholeness from brokenness. And so know that people are in their struggle, they have not done their own work. I expect, unfortunately, breaches, because breaches come from brokenness. And so I really try to be prayerful about who I allow in my life. And I remember, my grandmother says all these wonderful things. She said, Sharon, don't get wounded by your own words. And I never got that. Because she said, you give people ammunition and they will take your ammunition and shoot you with it. So I try to remember not to be wounded by my own words and not share things with people. They have not demonstrated that they can be loyal. And if people talk about other people around me, I know that I can't trust them. So I just don't tell them. So I don't look at how they only treat me. I look at how they navigate in the world.
You know, I love that you said that, because have you ever watched someone at a restaurant when they are rude to the hostess or someone who is bringing them their food or delivering their water? That is not okay. And that person is not going to be someone that I'm going to be loyal to. It's very interesting. Joyce, what do you think?
Well, I do believe that it's a sign of the time that we've lost some of our values and honesty is one of them. Honesty and loyalty. We used to see that pattern so much in our growing up years. and I just don't think it's in the family as much as it used to be. Gossiping is quite common, so that you're taught, oh, well, you appear this way to one person, but you never know what it's going to be when you turn your back. So there's a little bit of this distrust about that word because it's sort of changed depending upon the values of the core family that you grew up in. I think.
I do too, Frank. I think we may have lost Frankie. Sharon, what do you think about that?
I think what Joyce said is absolutely true about our values. But this is what I believe for sure. I think that as time goes on, we're losing more and more of our values because we have no one to pass the values on. Hopefully we're getting diluted. Our values are getting diluted and diminished. So that's why you can't expect a person to act in a way that they really have never been taught about or seen it modeled. That's the thing. It's one thing to have, declaration. It's another thing to see demonstration. And if we don't see what loyalty looks like, I think it's sad. And it's unfortunate because sometimes you see more loyalty with people who do bad things, like loyalty in gangs and loyalty in their situations. And I'm like, why do I see loyalty exhibited it with mobs and gangsters and people who do but you don't see as much loyalty demonstrate with people who are really good, kind, hardworking people. That's sad. That's a sign of the times where the bad guys are more loyal than people who really want to serve people with love and acceptance. So that's the challenge, and that's the dichotomy of the situation. And I guess it's the oxymoron in some ways.
Well, I'm sorry. I think we also see it in the increase of divorces, the loyalty issue. It's not there as much. We're using that as excuses not to stay loyal to the marriage and to the bond that we took. I just interjected.
I think those are related issues, don't you? This is Kathy. And I appreciate what Sharon's saying about loyalty to the wrong things. That is really an issue. I'm glad we brought that up. And Joyce, your comment about divorce is so profound. One thing that I see in families is you can build family loyalty. It does take effort and it takes commitment to do that. But I really think it's worth saying it out loud because for young people that are coming from backgrounds where there's divorce, they need to know that for those of us who have built families based on fellowship and loyalty, it took a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It isn't something that they missed their chance because their parents divorced. No, they can regroup and they can build that into their lives and their families now. And it just takes a lot of commitment and some skills. They're learnable skills. And Joyce, I think you do quite a bit of that, don't you? Teaching skills for those kind of transitions in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I just want Frankie here. I just want to comment on Sharon's what she said about the gangs and gang loyalty, and I think that when you don't have family and when you are desperate for love and attention and affection, those gangs provide that. They provide that loyalty and family and protection that these young kids are so desperately desiring. And so, if they had felt that in their own homes, then they wouldn't need to go out and find it elsewhere. And I think that's why when you don't have it, it's more important to you.
That's brilliant. This is Linda, just for a second, because there's some synonyms to loyalty, and I found them interesting. Allegiance was one, which I think comes into line with gangs, and that is an allegiance. It is a substitution for family, etc. The others are not really in line with the gangs. Devotion, faithful, sincerity, and trustworthiness. What does it mean to be loyal? For you to be loyal? I'll throw that out to whomever wants to take it first.
You know what? I'm gonna give you a little story. I had a friend who I thought was a friend, and for 3 years we did everything together almost every single day. She had all these problems, and me being a coach, I always coach her, and I always coach her on the same issue. And of course, it got a little tiresome coaching on the same issue, like, Esther, get off.
No reflection on the coach, of course.
Yeah, of course
No.
and but every day I gave her the same advice, and 2 days later, this is still happening. And I'm like, okay, but you didn't listen. Anyway, so we were very close. That she did all this stuff with me, and one day she just stopped responding. That was it. The end of the relationship, like just completely done. Like she never called me again. And the day before was, hey, yeah, everything's great. You go out shopping and do things together. So I'm like stunned, and I think that's like disloyalty in a way, in a big way. And I really felt, like devastated. Like, what happened to this friendship? What happened to her? Why isn't she even calling me and telling me if I did something wrong or whatever? And then I realized that she probably fixed her problem and didn't need me anymore. And, that was the end of it. And it was so funny. I ran into her about 2 months ago. I hadn't seen her for years. And, how are you? How's everything? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Kidding me right now?
You talking to me? Right.
like everything's great. And not that I hold a grudge, because I don't. But I'm just like, and everything's normal for you? Like, not even, hey, I'm really sorry I never talked to you for the rest of my life again. But,
But see, that's a perfect example, in my view, of what it means when someone isn't loyal. Because if they can't be with you in the good, the bad, the ugly, then it's different. And if you're not authentic and upfront, then that's a problem for me. Because for me to have someone to be loyal, I will always be loyal to them. They prove multiple times, usually, that they cannot be trusted. And so trust is a large part of loyalty. The gossip you mentioned is so prevalent these days. And so often it's untrue. And how do you prove an untruth? You don't. You have to just live through it. And I would like to throw out the fact that sometimes we're loyal to the wrong people for too long because we think we see inside them to the good parts, and we probably do. But we're not in control of which of their parts are going to come out. And so I would love to, after the break, discuss blind loyalty. And when we are loyal to people, maybe when we should not be, or we've been demonstrated that was not such a well-advised decision to stick with that person. But loyalty is good, but being too loyal can also have its downsides. So I think that's a pretty fascinating way to look at this, because to me, it isn't a gray situation. To me, it's a black and white. You're either loyal or you're not. We'll be right back. We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
If you need to lose weight but are not quite ready to make a commitment to an eating program, then cut 200 calories a day from your regular diet. This is an easy task and one that will start your weight loss. Slashing 200 calories from your daily eating is simple and very doable. It's as easy as choosing steamed vegetables instead of a loaded baked potato. Not only will losing weight reduce your risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease, it will also aid your immune system. A study by Tufts University asked a group of slightly overweight people to cut 100 to 200 calories a day. As expected, their cholesterol went down, but they also boosted their immune system response to disease-causing microorganisms. Cutting 200 calories out of your daily diet is easy and well worth it. I'm Annette Hammond. Visit our website at AnnetteHammond.com.
Welcome back, and we are talking today about loyalty with some amazing dynamic women. And on the break, I wish you could listen to these breaks sometimes. There's such rich information that goes back and forth. But before the break, we were talking about blind loyalty and the other side of that double-edged sword of the good part about loyalty and then the blind loyalty. Sharon, you had an interesting comment.
Yes, I think that loyalty is not always black and white. Let me tell you why. I have been in situations where people wanted me to pledge allegiance to something that I absolutely did not agree on. And I believe I could never show allegiance without total heart agreement. And I was in a situation where a person was doing something that I felt questionable, and I could not be loyal. Now, I didn't tell anybody what they were doing, but I could not stand with them in the midst of illegal activity.
Sure.
So I believe
Good move.
Yeah, I believe that loyalty is not always right. I feel like you have to be in alignment and agreement on a stand, especially when it comes to to me, ethical issues. And so I think that sometimes we are pressured to be loyal, even when we don't agree at all. So I think that I tell my friends, listen, don't ask me to be loyal to something that I don't agree with. I'm not going to stand with you at all. I can love you, but I'm not gonna back you up on it. But I'm very honest about it up front, so there's never any discussion about where I stand on an issue. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it is important.
Mm-hmm. I really agree with that. I think that's one thing I love about dynamic women. We're committed to some core values, and one of them is being respectful of each other. So it really allows us to have these intense conversations where we don't always agree. And often one thing that happens on this program that I love is people will share some very intimate, tender background kind of experiences they've had, and it's because they feel so comfortable because the mutual respect is a core value. And I think that's a key part of loyalty. Sharon, I think you bring up such a great point in saying when people have different values than we do, there are times we cannot be loyal to their stance. Mm-hmm. We can be loyal to them as a person, but tactfully and kindly, gently disagree with them, so that there's no confusion about where we stand.
So true. So true. And yet there are times when you are loyal to people and it is not on a topic. It's just regular loyalty. And you find yourself thinking, wait, I don't know that I should really be. You sort of test that loyalty at that point, not overtly, but you find yourself thinking, I'm feeling a disconnect with that person. Mm-hmm. That blind loyalty can lead you down roads you don't want to go. Just like Sharon mentioned earlier about, you're not going to be party to illegal activity. That's a good black and white issue. But when someone is not loyal, I start really questioning other values and trusting and verifying. What do you think, Joyce?
Well, I am definitely one that believes in the core values. Mm-hmm. And I think we get really foggy when we don't identify those top values that we must have in our relationships. And when you do get in situations where you don't fall in alignment, the question is, do I stay with this or do I leave this group or this relationship? Mm-hmm. Sometimes for business you can't, but you're better off to stay in alignment with the people that have core values that are in alignment with you. So I'm a big person on core values. That's what I teach. And this is all reeking of core values for me.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes core values is very important. It's something that as a coach I go with first thing when I meet a client. I want to know what their values are. However, if you have a childhood friend, imagine you have a childhood friend. You grew up since nursery school with them or kindergarten, and now you're in your 30s and 40s or 50s, and you've gone your whole life, and you feel a loyalty and a long time loyalty to somebody, even when you know that they're not doing the right thing or they're not. You probably should break it off, but how do you do that when you've had a lifelong friendship? Mm-hmm. And so that's a loyalty that is a tricky situation where you're not really sure if you should or you shouldn't, even though, and I'm not talking about illegal activity, but just, maybe they're not, what they do in their life isn't, in alignment with your values or anymore. Or even maybe they never were. Maybe they were just that friend that, was so opposite that's why they're your friend, Go
ahead, Joyce.
Well,
everybody wants to talk. Right.
The only thing I would say is that in that situation, which is very delicate, oh my goodness, how do you do that to a childhood friend? But I do think you lessen your time with them, you pull back a bit. You're not walking totally away, but you need to respect your own frustration in being in a situation with somebody that is not in alignment with you. And those are difficult decisions, but I think they're necessary in some situations.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I was just going to jump in here because we mentioned boundaries earlier, I believe, and I do consider what Joyce just described as a kind of boundary when you put limits on the time you spend with people. But I think it's so important to mention it might not be a childhood friend who would be very dear to you. It could be your own child. Mm-hmm. Many people that I know that are my age have parents who did not agree with their lifestyle choices, and some of those parents are my dearest friends. And I think it's a relief to them when I share, well, that's your child that you raised, but they're an adult now and they make the choices they make. So they still want to be loyal to their adult child, but they also don't have the same values. And I think that is very tender and delicate, like you said, Joyce, of course. But we have to be aware that's all around us.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
So is it disloyal to let them go, Kathy? I fear that in some situations you might be their only lifeline. Frank, they're going down a road. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm really glad you brought that up because, Frankie, that is really a serious question, and it is killing families right now. There's so many of our friends that may be listening that are experiencing this kind of dilemma in their own family, and you don't want to let a child go down too far down a road that will be destructive, and yet you do have to respect their adulthood. So I don't have answers because I think each individual situation is so difficult, but I do know loyalty in those situations can require a lot of tough love out of us and a lot of compassion.
And that's a very different topic of loyalty.
Yes.
That's being faithful and devoted and trustworthy to a family member. And this opens the communication up to, as Sharon has said, courageous conversations, which is really different than if a friend betrays you and you cannot trust them any longer. And that has happened to, I'm sure, each of us. But Sharon, talk more about courageous conversations, because I think that's a really important part about loyalty. Talking with someone about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and not agreeing on everything, but still being loyal to them and listening and wanting to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that is so key. One of the things I do with some people that I feel that I want to have a relationship with, I ask them, what does loyalty look like to you? Mm-hmm. What does loyalty feel like to you? Give me an example of when you felt betrayed. Give me an example of when you felt somebody showed you loyalty in a way that made your heart sing and made you feel safe. I think that we have to understand that we don't all have the same definitions of what loyalty looks like. No universal actions that loyalty is a. So I think we have to have those conversations, especially as we see that there's so much diversity in the world. All my friends are different than I am in a variety of ways. So I never come to the conversation table thinking that my definition is the rule and the definition of anything. But I have those conversations. Now, if after we have those conversations and they give me examples that demonstrate that there's a big gap, we talk about the gap. And I say, how are we going to have the gap in our relationship? Because we are different with different people. Even though we have the same values, how those values might show up is based on the contours and the stories of our lives. So I try to get on the same page. none of us are off guard. So if a person say you were not loyal, when we had a conversation, because I let people know loyalty means that I'm going to stand with you and love you, but don't ask me to do A, B, and C. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn you in. I'm not the one you're going to jail by yourself, or or I'm not going to do that.
Now that's a good boundary.
I'll bring you cake.
And so people know that if I give you my loyalty, I love you, but I don't like gray. I think the gray kills us.
Yeah.
And I think we have to have those conversations with people that we are in close connection with. If not, we should not be in close connection with them. Access to you has to have some boundaries and some shared meanings and some shared agreements. If not, we cannot hang out that close. It's too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Frankie?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just thinking about a show I did on transgender, and a father wrote to me after and said that his son is the I in the GBLTQI, and that that he's still really proud and loves his son, and he was happy that I did the show on it. It helped him a little bit of understanding because it's a very difficult determination when you're not even sure what you are, or you're your own or whatever, right? And I thought that's a dad really being loyal to and loving his son and being open to however he expresses himself in this world. And I thought I was really proud of that for him.
Joyce?
Not easy.
No, not easy at all. Joyce?
Yes. Oh, well.
Thoughts?
I was just caught up in the show that Frankie did that she was talking about. So, I do think that
conversations. Yep.
I do think that we do get caught up in if we're not clear about what we believe, and I love the way that Sharon talked about her working with a friend in the conversations. Applaud there. I wanted to snap my fingers or something as an approval method.
That's a great idea.
Do it.
You'll all start banging our desk.
But I do think sometimes we have those delicate conversations that need to be carried on, and it's so difficult for so many people, including me. I sometimes have a really difficult time talking with those people about subjects that Sharon spoke about. So applaud. I applaud you.
Yeah, absolutely applaud. Snapping fingers. We can do little golf claps, so that would be fine. We're going on another break. And when we come back, let's talk about what it means to be loyal in a close relationship. Someone you're with all the time, a spouse, a sister, a father, a mother, that kind of thing. Because that tests your loyalty sometimes more than people who are further away from you in life. And I find that just a fascinating thing. We'll be right back. We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
Critics, or the people who study dreams, tell us that the kind of television you watched as a child can affect your dreams today. For instance, if you had a black and white TV, you might be prone to colorless dreams. I'm pretty sure I dream in color, but my friends say it's a pigment of my imagination. It has been suggested the type of cheese you eat can also impact your dreams. This might be a bit hard to digest, but a study conducted by the British Cheese Board discovered that people who ate cheddar cheese dreamt more about celebrities, while folks who ate blue cheese experienced more bizarre dreams. A bad dream could give you matutulopia, or the bad mood you experience when you get up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Our bodies were created to function properly, and all we need is available to us to live a healthy, long life. We have been fearfully and wonderfully made and equipped with what we need to live life to the fullest. According to Medical News Today, the body ensures that a constant level of energy is available to all of its cells through a complex system that includes regulating how much food we eat, how much of the digested food we absorb, how much of the digested food we store away, and how much of our energy store we release for use. If this balance is upset, individuals can gain weight and even develop type 2 diabetes. But it really is simple to maintain optimal health. Exercise at least an hour a day, keep portion sizes small, and consume nutritious, low-calorie foods to live a healthy, long life. I'm Annette Hammond.
Welcome back, ladies. We are talking to Sharon Jameson, Frankie Picasso, Kathy Krafke, and Joyce Buford about the topic of loyalty. And before the break, we were talking about what some of these relationships that we are in are more difficult than others to actually be loyal in. And I guess I'm speaking in this instance of those of family and or close associates that you must be around all the time. So you can be loyal to them on the parts that are loyalty based, but you may not always like or is happening elsewhere. What do you all do, and what does it mean to you to be loyal in a very close relationship? Let's start with Kathy.
Well, I've been saving this quote from Euripides, so this is an ongoing problem. Thousands of years later. One loyal friend is worth 10,000 relatives, he says. But I noticed both Joyce and I were picking up on some of the comments Sharon made about having these difficult conversations. And I loved what Sharon said about being able to listen well. And so, and not acting like we know everything. So I wanted to share this because I think Sharon will really love it. And she is the expert on bringing great sound bites. So I have this one for you, Sharon. What I tell my kids, I hope you love this. What I tell my kids is God is all knowing, Kathy is not. And I think that developed because I sometimes think I do know it all, So I had to kind of give myself a little phrase that would help me remember I don't know everything and I need to listen well. So my contribution to this conversation right now is one of the things I've learned is if you don't ask the right question, you are not going to get the right information. But questions are so powerful. If you learn to ask good ones, you will get great information. And then I would just want to throw this out in 3 points. One of the values of good questions, the 3 main values, is you get great information, number 1. Number 2, it holds other people accountable when you ask them good questions. And number 3, and this is the one I don't like, you apprentice your family, so they start asking you good questions, which in turn holds me accountable. I meant to say you, not me.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. That's why I've just learned to love good questions.
It's true.
Yeah.
Joyce?
Well, there are those times, and I'm primarily thinking my relationships with my children. There's some times that you just absolutely don't like who you see. And I'm sure it's vice versa for them. They don't like who mother is either. But during those times when you're talking about loyalty to you're loyal to your child because it is your child. And you just have to go through those times of difficulty where you don't like each other, and they happen in every relationship. It's part of the plan for them to grow into the people they're going to be. And you just have to take it on faith. You have to take it on just, I'm here for you, but I don't really like you right now. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of life. So I love that if we could know that, if we could tell our new parents this is part of the journey in parenting, you don't have to always like, nor respect, nor want them to be doing what they're doing. So that's my thoughts on the parent-child. This, it works also with the spouse a little bit differently, because you hope you are married to a person that's an adult, and not reliving his or her childhood, but that's happening. So anyway, but with family, you just kind of have to hang in there and ask for grace, ask for some space, and stay the whole.
It's Frankie here. A little while ago, Sharon brought up the topic of being loyal to oneself. Mm-hmm. And I think that, loyalty to oneself encompasses a lot of what we've talked about, the boundaries, the knowing your values and sticking to your value system and not allowing others to, that's part of that boundary, break into what makes you comfortable. Sometimes being uncomfortable is very good because it allows us to change and to experience new things. But what does, being loyal to oneself look like other than that? You have to know yourself, and you just need to do, sometimes, people think it's selfish, but I think that you need to do what's good for you, even though you might not be being the best friend of somebody else at the moment.
I agree with that. Linda here. I think that when you are uncomfortable and you feel yourself getting uncomfortable, you said, how does it make you feel? Mm-hmm. If it feels uncomfortable, gut is twisting, your shoulders are reaching up to your ears, just are feeling repelled by the conversation or what is going on, there's an issue there that's deep lying that needs to be addressed at some point. And I think that is a time where you have courageous conversations. And I think one of the things I wanted to point out about loyalty to me is if you're in a loyal relationship that's mutually loyal, there's a stability to it and a security that says you can have courageous conversations, and it's not going to end it and blow it up in your face. I think that's what's hard about new relationships, where you may be just having an intellectual conversation and someone takes great offense and they cannot talk to you. And being able to converse, engage, and talk with people, to me, is a way to understand how they are thinking and persuade me. I really am intrigued by what you think. So the uncomfortable conversations are sometimes the most meaningful.
I agree. Totally.
Really interesting stuff. So, Kathy.
Yeah, I've been thinking a little bit more. I think you may have mentioned it there about how faithfulness plays into this. One of the things we say at our house is faithfulness doesn't happen in a day. And I think that's so important for people to realize that you can mess up one day and you may have to dig yourself out of a hole for a while. But faithfulness is a long-term commitment. And so there's some freedom in that, knowing that it's a long-term commitment. And there's also some responsibility there. So when it comes to loyalty, I think faithfulness is a really key part. And just by way of a quick story, I don't know how I even knew to do this, but somebody must have mentioned it in front of me. And we started praying for our kids when they were really little, that God would bring the right spouse into their lives at the right time. And I know that doesn't work for everyone's perspective, but for us as Christians, that was a very valuable way to approach. And what was so great about it is it taught our kids to be loyal to a spouse they had not met yet. So we would talk to them about faithfulness, being faithful to somebody that's in your future, but you haven't met them yet. And boy, so far, 2 out of 3, we have really great son-in-laws. I'm expecting eventually to get a daughter-in-law, I hope. But we're praying for her.
No pressure.
Yeah, wherever she is. Well, really,
I just have to say congratulations to Kathy on being a new grandma this week.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Oh, y'all, thank you so much. Yeah, we were really overjoyed. And she is the cutest baby, so we can't talk about that because I won't have enough time on air for anything else.
I love it.
Oh,
so, yeah. Frankie. So when you're talking about, I love this quote, and usually Kathy brings all the quotes to the table, but I've got one today. You cannot buy loyalty. You cannot buy the devotion of hearts, minds, and souls. You have to earn these things. What do you think about earning loyalty?
It's the same as earning respect. You know, you can't buy that either. It's these are and they're hard concepts to teach children or to explain to somebody because there's no concreteness to them really. It's a feeling, and it's you know, it's like love, right? It's a feeling that you want to be aligned or be loyal or be there for somebody. But that, like respect, loyalty is not given, but it's given. You know, it's not a given that you'll have it, but it's given when there's love, I think, really. I think it kind of goes hand in hand in a way because can you be loyal without having a bit of love thrown in there? I don't know. Let me ask
really
you
good question. Good question. This is Joyce. Sure. I did want to go back and talk about something, and I hope it's okay to do that, Linda. But
sure.
You talked about knowing when one must leave a person or in a relationship, and I'm primarily talking about relationship, because although I say we believe and we go into marriages thinking they are forever, but then there are things that do develop that we must make a decision, some of us, in our lives that would result in taking a different path or divorce because we cannot regain our balance. And so I do think that we need to know that the loyalty is a part of faithfulness that at some time presents us with difficult decisions. Difficult decisions.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my goodness, we have to redesign our life and we didn't expect this. And so it really is an important factor that in today's world where there is so much of divorce that we understand the difficulty of making those decisions. So, anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, I think I'm so glad you brought that up, Joyce. This is Kathy. I think it is so important for us to remember that people have experiences that we really can't comprehend and have no way to evaluate. So much of what happens in marriage is so private. I'm just glad you brought that up.
Well, it's true. And I would love to talk about how sincerity plays into all of this. Because when someone is pretending to be loyal, and I know that I have had that experience, pretending to be loyal, you feel like something's off, but you give them the benefit of the doubt. You show the grace, you know, pick your phrase. But without sincerity and proof or demonstration, if you will, it really gets to be a tangled web. But it's really important because loyalty is really bound to being authentic, and you can only fake it for so long. And that's where it hurts when it comes out that someone wasn't as loyal as you thought that they were, and it does become a betrayal and a choice we have to make. So I am just so grateful to hear all of your views on this topic because, as I said, it has many tentacles to it. And we are talking today with Sharon Jameson, Frankie Picasso, Kathy Krafke, Joyce Buford on the topic of loyalty. We're going on a quick break right now. We'll be right back. We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Having a great workout and sweating feels so good. But did you realize it is also good for your complexion? According to Fitness Magazine, sweating can boost your collagen. The increased circulation that comes through strenuous exercise delivers nutrients to your cells to produce elastin and collagen. Sweating also fights lines because toned muscles provide more support for your skin and reduces the appearance of sagging and wrinkles. Sweating clears your pores by removing about 30% of the toxins that your body daily produces. And a perspiring exercise session can banish breakouts. When you work out, your adrenal glands secrete less hormones that are partly responsible for acne. Attaining a vibrant, clear complexion is just one more reason to hit the gym. I'm Annette Hammond. Join our Facebook fan page at Fitness Minute with Annette Hammond.
It's words you never heard.
Did you know that besides home and work, Americans spend more time at the mall than anywhere else? There are 50,000 shopping malls in the United States alone. The Mall of America, located between Minneapolis and St. Paul, is the largest in the world with more than 500 stores. What's a word for a person who is a compulsive shopper? An oniomaniac. Studies have shown that women will buy more if they hear their heels clicking on the floor. So designers often use hard flooring in hallways. Of course, the stores want customers to spend all their coopity-coop. That's another word for money. Oh, I gotta run. There's only one more shopping day until tomorrow. My husband said if I don't quit shopping so much, he would leave me. Lord, I'm gonna miss that man. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back, and we're going to talk in this last segment, because I think we could take this for 2 more hours, about 2 questions. How can you be loyal to someone, and why is it important to be a loyal person? And they're big questions, but I'd love each person's perspective on them. So let's start with Sharon.
The way I help myself stay loyal is that I divide people into humanity and divinity. And I say that even if I can't be loyal to that human part of them because I totally disagree with them, I can be loyal to that part of them that's based with God, their divinity. And so I try to keep those 2 separate so I can stay with people who I find to be very different than I am. And so I won't judge people who are very different than I am, because I think at the core, we all want the same thing. We all want people to be loyal. But what I realize is that being loyal to someone else is really not about them, it's about me. Mm-hmm. Because I feel when we show that we're not trust ourselves, it affects our self-esteem, it affects our self-worth. So I understand that when I'm not loyal to another person, I'm really damaging myself. I'm really crippling myself. I'm really affecting my own relationship to God. And that helps me to be loyal to people, even when I don't really align myself with some of their values. So I just separate it, and it lets me to continue to interact with them from a place of respect and love and dignity and honor their divinity. But when I do that, I understand I'm loyal to you, not because I love you, but really because I love me and I love my relationship with God, and it helps me to stay firm with them.
Frankie.
Can you ask me that question again, please?
Yes. How can you be loyal to someone, and why is it important to be loyal?
How can you be loyal? And that's a tough one, actually.
It is.
You just are, or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
I think you are or you're not, and that's it. And it's important.
What does it look like? Because to me, it looks like someone who is there for me. If someone's bullying, mm-hmm. they step in and say, "Stop! You're out mm-hmm. of line. That's not what she said." Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, that's a little example.
Sure.
I'm just trying to help with a word picture.
Yeah,
I
mean, I think that it does, and it means the same to me. And in the same way, whether you stand up for them or you tell them when they're right or wrong, because mm-hmm. that's loyalty too, right?
Yes.
Letting them know that they're not, acting in a manner that is going to be good for them. So I think that's loyalty. People don't like it, but when you do it, that's loyalty. Good or bad. So I think that's how you do it. You do it by loving them, I guess. Really, that's in its essence.
Do you think that people understand when someone is loyal to them? I mean, when you're with someone, do you know?
I don't know. I think that people that you can count on, and it's always mm-hmm. difficult when you're surprised that you couldn't.
Right.
And so I guess it's really you believe in it until it happens that it's not there for you. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that and I guess everybody has their place, like Sharon said, but she has that conversation before it happens. They're going to know where she's going to step back and go, hey, not happening. But if you don't have those conversations and then you're surprised, it's like a kick in the gut.
It is. It's like a betrayal. Maybe looking at this, viewing those questions, because these are hard questions, as trustworthiness makes it a little simpler to define it. What do you think?
Can I jump in?
You are to jump in, ma'am.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. Well, I'm kind of chuckling in the background here as Frankie is stumbling over the question, because it's often true. The person most gifted is not even aware of how good they are at something. And so it's really hard for them to put it into words. But Frankie, you are so good at entering into other people's lives and understanding what's going on in their life. Just the example of you remembering that my grandbaby was born is a great example of loyalty. It meant so much to me that you thought of it. And so I just think you're a natural. But I do think that the way we are loyal to other people is by getting out of our own self and trying to enter into their world and their perspective and their trials and their joys. And I think it's so important. It is how we connect with people. So loyalty to me is very tied with, getting out of myself and trying to understand what the other person is experiencing and living in that moment. And I just got to say, I think you're great at that, Frankie.
Thank you. So are you.
Thanks.
Well, Admiration Society, all dynamic women. But see, the loyalty comes too, if you think about it, many of us did not know one another when this show began.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, at this point, this tribe of women, I trust. And I think it's really, really important. So I just wanted to throw that in there too, because I'm part of this Mutual Admiration Society too.
Yes, you are.
I just want to say something really quick, because it's a really great example here. The sex scandal that happened with Harvey Weinstein. Judi Dench said, it's scandalous and it's hard when a lot of people concerned are great friends of yours. I feel loyal to them, and at the same time I feel appalled by what has happened to a lot of the young actresses. So this is where, loyalties are pulled. A long time, 20-year friend, never happened to her, so she didn't see it. And he's been good to her career and good for all kinds of things, right? And she's scandalized and appalled at the behavior, but she still wants to be loyal.
Mm-hmm.
And can you be loyal to both groups at the same time?
Well, I love what Sharon said earlier about people operating out of their brokenness. People they're operating out of their brokenness as much as it scandalizes us. It is a broken person that would do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't excuse it, but you're right.
No, it doesn't excuse it. And so is this where not forgiveness, but compassion, and even though he knowingly did what he did, he is broken, he's sick in the head. So are you disloyal at this point?
I hope Joyce speaks up, because I think Joyce will know.
Yeah.
Oh, you sweet thing. Well, going back to the be loyal model, I think from this conversation today, we all have a better idea that loyalty to every one of us is a little different, little different from our sister on this call. And so when I think about being loyal, it's more about, because I'm a leader, I want to model what I think loyalty is to my friend. So if I offer service, if I offer support, however that is, I'm showing her my model for loyalty. Not necessarily hers, but as the relationship develops, it may be one that takes on, and we're both modeling that way. But that's the way I think that I would be loyal to a friend. I know I am. I think it's important that we're loyal because it creates relationships, it creates connection, and we all need connection in this world.
Absolutely.
We all need somebody that says, I love you, I think you're great, I think you're wonderful. And that's why it's just so important to use loyalty in your life. Keep it in your life. Model it. Use it. So there you have it.
I love what you said, Joyce. I think that loyalty strengthens us. I think somebody already said that, and I totally agree. But I also know that you can't pour your tea in a broken glass. Mm-hmm. And if we continue to try to hold on to relationships or to people, or try to make our model, our paradigm, the absolute paradigm, we're never going to get what we need. And I think that even though people crave connection, they don't know how to be connected. Mm-hmm. And I see that in my clients. I just see that people are so wounded that they don't have the wisdom to win in a relationship. And you need wisdom to win. But if you're wounded, all you're going to do is bring that woundedness. And if a person is not willing to learn how to be a friend, to heal their own soul so that they can be in relationship, your relationships will suffer. I think if always remember that relationships are like laboratories, experimenting on each other. We're doing the best we can, even if it's bad, right? Mm-hmm. But if we understand that relationships are laboratories where we can grow and strengthen each other, but we got to have that conversations and start to be under a conversation that, listen, I'm doing my best to mess up. Teach me how to love you. Show me how to love you. And when my friends teach me how to love in them, I try to do the same. I never try to assume that I know loyalty means what it means to be connected with another person, because and I think it's really important.
Well, this is Frankie, and I wish you hadn't broken up so much, because what you were saying is really, really important. And I love that friendships are like laboratories, and you get to grow with and expand and test even, testings. I think one thing that is missing from a lot of our upbringing is the idea of how to have, or the art of a contentious conversation, the art of speaking to somebody when the topic is difficult. Conflict resolution, where this, so many of us avoid conflict because it embarrasses us or it scares us or whatever the case may be, but it actually is the component that gives us the most growth. So maybe that should be something that is taught in schools even.
But see, I think that's why we've lost much by not teaching debate class anymore.
Yes, yeah.
And you have to defend both sides, and then you switch sides of the room and you persuade. I think we've lost the ability to engage on that level, and that's veering away from loyalty, but it does come right back into connections and communication and sincerity. And so it's funny, all those synonyms we brought up at the beginning with loyalty and allegiance and devotion and faithful sincerity and trustworthiness, I think we've shown that loyalty isn't gray. But we have to take a look at the situation and evaluate it each time, have those courageous conversations, like Sharon said. And loyalty gives us a foundation upon which our relationships are built. And it's really helpful to model, demonstrate, and appreciate really true loyalty in those that we are close to or those we wish to become close to. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing your viewpoints on this somewhat difficult topic to define. We know what it is, but it's not always there. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. We'll be back next week. You're listening to Dynamic Women Talk Radio.
Thank you for tuning in today to Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and join us each week. You can find more shows on dynamicwomentalkradio.com.